All right. We are live. Hello, welcome in everyone to the Brand Your Practice podcast and also webinar. This is part 6, the final part, 6 of 6 with Chris on how to get calls, how to make calls, go get to clients, calls into clients. I'm sorry, Chris, I forgot the title
Clicks
of that.
to clients.
Clicks to
Clicks to
clients.
clients.
Last week was calls into clients. Now, but the overall series was, or last time we met was calls into clients where your friend who's an intake coordinator came on. So if you haven't seen that yet, that was great having her on. And so just go to the Brand Your Practice YouTube page and check out that conversation that I have. But today we're going to be talking about intensives, groups, courses, those things that are beyond the one-to-one therapy. And I'm really excited to have Chris talk about this too, because he has a really great client that does intensives. I have a few clients that do intensives. Intensives are like the rage right now. It's like hot stuff. And then we talk about groups and courses and things like that as well. So why don't we go ahead? I'll turn it over to you, Chris, and we can get started and just welcome everyone in from the chat. If you have a question regarding groups or intensives or courses or anything like that, please let us know. But we got examples that we can show you today. All
Awesome.
right. Sweet. Here we
Thanks,
go.
Brent. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks again. So I'm Chris from Moonraker.ai, and this is part 6 from Clicks to Clients. And what I'm calling this is how to master client retention and long-term value. And as Brent mentioned, it's all about expanding and diversifying services beyond the weekly therapy model so that you can increase the lifetime value of the client and also reach larger audiences that are outside of your schedule or your therapeutic jurisdiction. So let's get into it. So why should you attend this webinar? Number one reason is that you're limited to weekly sessions and you're missing out on growth opportunities. And that could be, as I said before, because you're only licensed in one particular place and you're getting potential clients from elsewhere. You know, great marketing, people will show up from everywhere, but you have to turn them away, which is a real bummer. Or, you know, on the flip side of things, you're doing well, but you want to diversify your offerings and maximize your impact. So this is a roadmap to a variety of different things that you can get into that will allow that to happen. So this is an overview of the client journey, and we are in the final phase here. So we have clients, and now it's about maximizing the care for those existing clients and also how to connect with whole new audiences and enter whole new realms. So let's see how we can leverage your expertise and your experience and take it to the next level. So again, I'm Chris Morin. I've been in the wellness space for decades, and I also have about 20 years of marketing experience. And so everything that I'm sharing today is stuff that we've helped our clients with, and also that I have done myself as well. So I'm not going to talk about these parts, but we do this every day. And so these will be slides in the presentation to show you how to show up on Google and also nowadays on ChatGPT and Claude and other AIs as well. So what are some common challenges? So as I mentioned before, there might be a licensing limitation. You have to turn away potential clients because they're outside your jurisdiction. It could be that you have hit capacity and you've maxed out. You don't want to add more people to your own weekly caseload. You don't want to scale to a group practice with associates, so you're kind of stuck there. It could be technology barriers, like you don't know how to manage groups or other platforms online. You don't know how to build digital resources or things like that. Or it could be just uncertainty about pricing, structure, et cetera. How do I set up an intensive, a group program, et cetera? And so I'll be transparent right here and state that this training is an overview of all the different adventures that you can pick. We're not going to go super deep into here's how to build out your intensive. There's a lot of really great programs that do that already, but this is going to get your mind and get the gears turning so that you can think of all the different ways that your current practice can grow into other places. So why is this critical? Because as I said before, if you're stuck in the weekly individual session model, then you as a therapist can only go so far because you're essentially converting your time into money. And although that is joyful for most therapists, there's a point when you're really crushing it where you might think, can I do more? This is comfortable, but can I earn more? Can I create a lasting impact on more people? Can I reach folks that are further away? How do I build my legacy? That's a word that comes up a lot in these calls. I want to write a book, but it feels like it's in my next lifetime. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that even looks like. Like, how do I sell something like that? So there's a lot of different things that people envision, but it seems like it's way out of reach. So it's critical for the increase in your revenue, but also I think on a deeper level, increasing the fulfillment that you gain from your profession and also increase the impact that you have. So in that spirit, we've created what I call the impact framework, which is 6 specific methods that you can use to expand your practice beyond the weekly session model. So in terms of how to measure success of this process, it's things like client retention, lifetime value, your enjoyment as a therapist, how aligned you feel with your greatest ability to be of service to others. And so all these things are going to talk about that. So let's jump into it. Impact, IMPACT. I love a good acronym. So these are the 6 different paths that you can choose, and some of them are related to one another. So as Brent mentioned, intensives are crazy right now, and they're becoming more popular. This is a really amazing way to maximize lifetime value very quickly, especially with existing clients, but new clients. Like, I can tell you that one of my main clients, intensive therapy retreats that Brent had mentioned, we've been marketing with them for almost 5.5 years, and the average client lifetime value is $4,700, and that's over the course of 3.5 days. They don't come back after that. So that's about as much, if not more, than a lot of therapists that I talk to that are seeing clients for a year or two. So it consolidates the earnings. It also consolidates the transformation. And a lot of folks would say that work creates deeper, more lasting transformation because of how everything is stacked. There's no breaks, there's no distractions. It's just a very powerful experience. So meetups.
Let's go back to intensives real quick.
Yeah.
Just because you talked about increases the impact on like that. I think that's been the most fulfilling, I think, with some of the clinicians I've been working with that have intensives. Like, they just say, like, I can get so much done in that
so much
couple hours, because especially if you're doing trauma work, right? You have to open somebody up, do trauma work, and close them up in 50 minutes, which is like not enough. That's like really hard to do. And in some ways that's not even actually beneficial for the client long term. So the intensives are a great way. And you don't think about full day intensives. You could just think of as intensive, maybe it's like 2 or 3 hours, right? So it's just an extended session. That could be an intensive.
Absolutely.
And then they can come back to one-to-one if they want, or do another intensive, so schedule them out every other week or once or twice a month, whatever that might be. But you're kind of just doing your normal thing, what you do, but just maybe expanding that for an extra hour or two. And there's a lot of couple therapists that won't even do 50-minute sessions. They have to do 90-minute sessions because it's really hard to do couples work. And and that also gets to some of the private pay, right? So that you're not even dealing with insurance when it comes to those intensives, because insurance companies, for whatever reason, they don't reimburse for that. And although I would imagine a few intensives could be less than reimbursements for years of therapy, over time. So, but we can dive in if you want. Put something in the chat. Dive in if you have more questions on intensives. I can show you. I put something in the chat, just like a landing page that for an EMDR intensive that I put together for a client if they want to kind of see an example what that looks like.
Yeah, and we I have slides for each of these topics here, so we can
go. Okay, got it.
I also wanted to show, this is a page that we're just finishing up now. This is a ketamine assisted intensive. So
this combining is another hot topic.
Yeah, combining all the stuff. Experience life-changing transformation in just 1 week. So this is a spin-off from my other client, ITR, because we couldn't have ketamine related terminology on the same page if we wanted to run Google ads without getting flagged. So it has been broken away.
Did you have to go through the addiction program thing to be able to run Google ads on that, or did you have to get creative?
I forgot what it's called. Our solution, because we didn't want to go through that third-party auditing or like approval service to run on these platforms. Yeah, it was super expensive and it was tedious. And so we just cleansed the main website of anything related to controlled substances. So it doesn't exist there at all. And when we continue to challenge the determination in the Google Ads dashboard, eventually they released the hold on the account and we were able to run it at full velocity. So that was our solution. And so this website is the spinoff that we created so that we could still target these terms, and it all funnels people back to the same intake coordinator as the main website, which is right over here. So that was our solution for that. But again, whether it's a standard retreat or it's a ketamine assisted retreat, like there's a million retreats. And like you said, it doesn't have to be 3 days. It could be 3 hours. It's really remarkable what happens. And the folks that I work with that use that model, they talk about how streamlined things are. Oh, I see 4 people a month and I don't need to bill insurance. People are jumping for joy at what they've gotten through. So again, it's a really powerful model, but I would encourage anybody who is considering this, get proper training, because it's not just like 20 EMDR hour-long sessions in a row. It's very different. So there's some great programs out there. So moving on, meetups. I didn't want to call it groups because then it would be IGPACT, and that's not as cool as Impact. So meetups are just any types of groups, peer support groups led by a trained therapist that can provide some accountability. It can provide the support of being in a community of people that also share similar values or struggles. I have years of experience in like 12-step groups. It's amazing. Like they talk about the fellowship and how important that is. And there's always people in there that just suck anyway after 25 years, but they're not causing trouble at the very least. They're in the group. And so groups have meant so much for me. Men's groups, doing men's work, all these things are really powerful. And so when you can create something like that appeals to your particular clientele about particular issues that you're an expert in, and you can guide that group, it gives people more accessibility to some form of therapeutic services, even if it's not one-on-one sessions, and it helps them find other people so they don't feel so isolated in their struggles. So that's another one.
I have one client that's actually doing one for free for current clients. Like
Cool.
It's like if they're a client of the practice, they can get access to this peer group. It's like it meets weekly for maybe 6 weeks or something like that. It's like an added value, but it also creates that community. And what that does is it builds your brand at the end of the day, because people will talk.
Absolutely. And that's the kind of thing that if you wanted to, you could offer that for free to the local community. And that could be a lead gen source for you, because they get a chance to experience you and your expertise in person and have a really good, create a good impression, so that when they're ready to do some one-on-one work, that they would think of you. So absolutely. That's a good one. Products, digital resources, guides, self-help tools, ebooks, etc. We'll get into that. Academy, again, I didn't want it to be courses because we had to follow the cool acronym, but this is the idea of like an online course. So taking a product, which is a low investment, like low ticket item, $5 to $25 kind of thing, and then upselling people into a more robust course that has modules and things like that for deeper learning. Consulting, professional consulting to organizations. That's amazing for a lot of reasons, but there's particular issues that manifest in the workplace, and that can really be an asset to a corporation if you can help to create a happy and healthy work environment. And often larger corporations have money that's earmarked for this, and so that can become a nice consistent source of revenue if you or your team go in on a regular basis. And then there's training, which is what I'm using training for in this particular model, is training, like professional training to other therapists. So if you have the credentials that allow you to train others on your modalities, or you developed your own modality or some type of certification program or anything, you can offer that as well. So there's a lot of different ways to expand beyond weekly sessions. And so again, we already talked about this, and this is pretty familiar to most people, but intensives are very powerful. It just condenses all of the therapeutic work into a shorter time frame, and the momentum that is created is really powerful. And as you mentioned, Brent, it doesn't need to be 3 days. It could just be going from like 15 minutes up to an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then my suggestion would be, as you get more experience with that, build up to like a half day, 3 hours, or a full day. And focusing on existing clients who have already committed can be a great way to gain more experience in that, because it's a good upsell. They already enjoy working with you, but maybe they're stuck on a particular thing. And you can also focus on one particular therapeutic outcome that you excel at. Like if it's trauma or relationships or anxiety, whatever it happens to be, having like a signature intensive can be really appealing because it helps people understand the purpose. Like, I have social anxiety. I'm going to go here in a day and I'm just going to hammer that particular issue. And we know that's probably not the real issue, but from a branding perspective, it helps people connect with the value of that experience.
Yeah.
And
another great way to sell this, sorry to interrupt, a great way to sell this is people in the back of their minds is sort of like, how quickly can I get over this? Or like, how can I not be captured by this symptom or whatever? So the way that you can easily sell the intensives is that, well, we can go longer and deeper and really get into it and not have to close up in the sessions fast, right? We can actually spend time with it, and I can go deeper with you than I can do in a regular 50 minutes. So and people are willing to pay money for more immediacy. I mean, we all know this, right? I mean, Disney knows this, the fast pass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you pay for that, you get in line quicker, right? You just show up. You don't want to waste your time. So like that is an important selling point. And it's true though. You're not being fake when you're talking about it, you know?
Yeah. That's interesting, the analogy of the fast pass, because it really is like that, the fast track to healing. And it's tumultuous. It's not that it's easy, hence the term intensives. It's very real. But it is an interesting phenomenon that most services have some economy of scale, but in this case, it's the opposite, where most of the time intensives are billed at a higher rate per hour. So if we looked at the client I showed you before, ITR, they're charging an average of about $266 to $300 per hour. And so a whole day is $1,550 to $2,000, depending on the clinician. And those same people, when they used to do weeklies, or some of them still do weeklies for certain clients, they're around $150 to $200 an hour. So they're actually getting more value per hour, and it's consolidated, no billing required, and they're doing really powerful work with people. So
well, it's value for both, right? Value for the clinician and for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the best way to scale this, as I said before, appeal to your existing clients. It's much easier to upsell existing clients than it is to sell brand new clients. But once you're ready to appeal to a larger audience, consider creating an SEO optimized page specifically for intensives. Don't just mention it as an afterthought on your other service pages. Put your own page for intensives, and then start running content creation. We've gone over this in past webinars. Leverage the power of AI, create valuable, comprehensive content, write blogs on a regular basis talking about intensives, and get the word out there so that Google will start to give you more traffic for that particular set of search terms in your area.
Yeah. Or hire Chris to do it for you.
Exactly. Thanks, Brett. So meetups and community groups. So as we said, there's something really powerful that happens when people get together. And I think it was Gabor Mate that said that healing is not meant to happen in isolation. And we know that because whether it's a one-on-one situation, you're there with the client, but when there's a group of people, one of the most beautiful things I've heard is when I've been in men's groups, people will say, like, when I saw you go through that piece of deeper work, it's like you were doing my work for me. And that's such a beautiful idea, the idea that when we see people work through their own trauma and grief, it processes something inside of us too. And so there's this real amazing ability for groups of people that come together with a shared intention and create a special space together to move a lot of energy very quickly. And when that is facilitated by a therapist, that can be guided in a way that aligns with, their therapeutic values and the goals of the group. And so I think in some ways it can potentially be more effective than if it's just a community-led group. And in terms of how to launch one, you might pick current or former clients that have similar challenges or goals, and consider meeting in your office. If you have an area or a room that's large enough to do so, that would probably be best. There's a lot of, rental rooms that you could use. And I mean, gosh, the meetings that I've been in, it's usually in the basement of a church. So there's always places to meet up. And it doesn't have to be glamorous, because the magic is what happens in the midst of those relationships and the trust and the comfort that is developed there. And it's one of those things where having enough touch points per month is important. Like, you want to develop some momentum, because once a month is not quite enough, in my opinion, to really develop the depth and the comfort. Like, we need to spend time together where people feel ready to open up if they're in a group of several other people, because there's something subtle that shifts when it's like all right, 2 people, 3 people, that's cool. Now 10 people, I feel different. I need to prepare myself or present myself. So having some consistency, same time each week, etc., is really helpful. And to accommodate that, keeping the price point low per group is very important. And as we said before, if you want to use this as an opportunity for lead generation, you can offer it for free. But typically it would be like 25 to 50 bucks a session. Really, whatever you think is appropriate for the length of the group, how much you're contributing to the group, but you want it to be accessible to a wide audience so that they can come consistently week after week. Or you just make it donation based, like a lot of groups. Just pass the basket and throw in what you have.
Well, I'll tell you this though, groups for a lot of my practice owners, this is like one of the hardest things to get lift off from, right? Because like if you start any group, it's the inertia, you know, just getting the first round of people going. It's just a lot of work. And it's also, you know, you usually don't make a whole lot of money off of this. So this really has to be kind of like a passion of yours. I think at the end of the day, like a real, you got to lean into it. Or if you have, let's say there's a full-time employee on staff who's passionate about it and they need, you know, they're struggling to get clients or whatever, they can take it over. But it's like anything that you launch, right? There's just more than you think that needs to be done to do it. I think it's worth trying out, but it's just a lot. Just be aware of the amount of work to kind of get that initial lift of the group off the ground. It can be tricky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because some of the folks that I live in this house with, they're also content creators. They're coaches of various types. And so they're creating this, they have a content creator meetup where people get together, they record content in a nice little studio and make it actually happen instead of just thinking about it. And one of the first questions is, oh, you have this little community. How many people are in it? Oh, it's 3 people. Oh, okay. I'm not interested. So it's like people don't want to be in it until it already exists. And so it's hard to find those initial people that are like the trailblazers. But if you can get a crew together, then that can continue for a while. And that's exactly what happened. We also run a men's group here weekly. And what we essentially did was put the word out to many men in the community. This is what we're preparing to do. Right now, we have about 10 people that are interested. And on any given week, there's between 5 and 12 people. So depending on scheduling, but it's to the point where it kind of just hums along, and we don't want to grow it beyond that. It's not a paid group. It's just, let's get together and use like the Mankind Project format and talk about our stuff. So that's the inertia is a big one. And so getting the word out there, being honest about it is probably the hardest part in the beginning.
Yeah. Great.
Let's go on to digital products. So these ones are super fun because this is in the realm of passive income. And I love passive income because instead of getting up in the morning and feeling like, oh no, who is in my inbox ready to mess up my day? It's like, how much money did I make last night? And that's really fun. It kind of flips the whole thing on its head. So the idea of a digital product that is so great for a therapist is that it's not limited by your therapeutic jurisdiction. If you're able to practice in California, you can sell an ebook about anxiety to someone in Massachusetts. And the idea of creating these is so much more accessible than before because of leveraging the power of AI. If you have good thoughts and experience and you have been utilizing certain tools or tactics with your clientele that have really gotten great results, you can turn that into an ebook that's 2 pages long or an infographic or even a PDF, whatever it is. And you can sell that for $5. We have some clients that have like a $10 ebook. It's a few pages long. We have a landing page that we created. It's just a single page that is designed to sell that one digital product. And it costs like $3 or $4 to land a new sale. So they make $6 after the cost of ads. And we just scale it to the level that they're comfortable with. And they make tens of thousands of dollars per year selling a tiny little ebook that took them about a weekend to make. And that probably could be trimmed down even shorter now because of AI. So this is no longer the type of thing where it's like, well, I have these good ideas. I have to wait until the future when I have time to sit down and write a novel. If you want to write a novel, that's awesome. There's nothing against long form content, but people really appreciate small, actionable, digestible bits of content that are interesting and engaging to utilize that actually make a positive impact on their life. Can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, sorry. I muted myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Great.
I freaked out for a second, like, oh no, the
Oh,
storm has affected me. It's been raining really hard here. We just got the tail, like the southern arms of a typhoon that hit southern China. So I'm in Vietnam right now, and it's been
oh,
very, very rainy.
oh,
So
wow.
I'm
Okay.
fine. But
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's cool. Finally, it's cooled down. So yeah, my suggestion when it comes to launching digital products, focus on something that you're a real expert, something where you feel like my method of doing this thing or utilizing this particular technique is a little different. I have my own spin on things, and
Mhm.
put something together, keep the price very low. That will reduce friction. It'll build momentum, and you can reach a wider audience. And you can always introduce more friction later. You can up the price. You can, as ads get more and more optimized, you can tweak things here and there. But I think of this as a great source of passive revenue on its own. But it also develops an awesome list, because all these people that purchase this product, they're going to provide some information, and you can use that in the next step if you decide to go there, which is to provide online courses. And so people that have already purchased something from you at a low ticket item are much more likely to purchase a high ticket item, such as an online course. And so this is essentially the same type of thing. It could even be the same exact topic as your 10-minute ebook, but it's a much deeper learning experience. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of platforms out there, again, that can help you in creating an online course or an academy. Brent, doesn't Therasas have a
Yeah.
module like that?
Yep. Therasas has a course module, and I have an online course called Private Pay Practice Program, and it's all built in Therasas, and you could buy it, and it's all through Therasas, the CRM, and a course
And how
material
much do
is
you
on there.
how much do you charge for that course?
That course is actually $3,000. Because
Nice.
it's not
So
just the
that's a good,
course, it also gets like a whole year of, we meet twice a month as a group. And then
cool.
we kind of work through the material, or if they're getting stuck on practice growth and things like that. So
And that's exactly the kind of thing that I mentioned down here, like pricing an online course. It's a premium educational experience. So at least 2 to 3x the cost of an individual session, less than ongoing therapy if it's a course that you're providing to somebody that could be an actual client. And test it out with a core group of people, refine the content, see how it lands for them, gather some testimonials, and then launch to a larger audience. And you can scale by adding multiple courses, building out the content for the same course. As Brent mentioned, adding live coaching components. So live calls on a weekly basis, things like that. You can even develop a certification program if you wanted to. Like, people do this stuff all the time, and it could be you as well. How does somebody say, I love EMDR, but I have a particular way I do it that I think is more effective, and now we have accelerated resolution therapy. Lainey was just like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get things rolling, and here it is. So
yeah.
this stuff happens all the time. And
I mean, look
these
at
are
what
also
Pessy did this. They were like, basically, Pessy was like, hey, let's offer certification. So if you take 3 courses from Pessy in this order or whatever, we'll certify you as a trauma specialist. I mean, they just make up their own certifications at this point. So you can totally
it's
do
like
that.
the
Right?
gamification.
If you have a really good take on EMDR or a really good take on something, have your own spin on it, add your own value, kind of what you've been chewing on as a practice owner, turn around and say, like, all right, you've been EMDR trained. Now I'm going to show you how you can take that and move it forward in this direction, or take it in this direction. Right. So,
And some of these things that we're talking about, especially as we get into like the higher ticket, like a course or consulting, these are also the types of things that when you have a section of your practice website that talks about that, like, hire me for a speaking engagement, it makes prospects on your website think that you are amazing, because, oh my God, why no one would hire her for speaking unless she must be incredible. So I think of it almost like it's its own source of revenue, of course, but it's also a conversion tool for potential weekly clients as well. Like, this person is clearly legit. No one's talking about getting hired for like a consultation gig if they haven't done this forever. So think of it in more ways than just the direct revenue. It's also the impression that it leaves with people. Like, you're a real thought leader in this space.
yeah.
So this is the kind of thing where all the emails that you have generated from selling the $5 PDF, you can also reach out to them and say, hey, we got this awesome course. Check it out. you get the first module free because you already purchased from our company, and this can really grow very quickly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about consulting. So consulting is awesome because large corporations, they are more and more concerned about wellness in the workspace. And whether it's like a one-day thing where you come in and you talk about like de-escalation or conflict management or communication strategies, or hey, let's do a bunch of DISC assessments on this team and figure out why no one knows how to talk to each other. All of these things, you can do this in, a lunchtime thing. You could do a day-long thing. You could do a multi-visit consultational model like that. Like, for example, my uncle, he's like a 6 Sigma black belt. This is like an efficiency standard for manufacturing. And so he comes in, he's like, Kaizen, we're going to make your factory optimized like Toyota so you can make the best product as quickly as possible. Yeah. And he gets hired on a monthly or quarterly basis for tens of thousands of dollars just to guide a company in the right direction. And like, for example, when I was doing massage therapy, I was living up in Maine, and there was a corporation. They were a life sciences company with about 3,000 people. And they would have me come in twice a week with a few other massage therapists to do chair massage. And it was like a feeding frenzy to get on that list every day. They offered it for free. People would flip out. There was bribes. There was all sorts of weird stuff going on just so they could get a 15-minute chair massage. But they paid us really good money, and we didn't have to think about it. It's like, okay, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, every week, I'm going to make $450. Love it. And I didn't need to do anything else if I chose not to. So these types of arrangements, if they're done in a strategic way, they can create a real nice foundation of revenue. And again, they're just an amazing platform for you to expand your impact, access a very large audience of people that are probably paid well enough that they could hire you on an individual basis. And so there's nothing bad about this. And the only differentiator of this versus, say, an online course for potential clients would be that it's catered to the specific stressors in the workplace. And, how do you craft your expertise into something that will help in that environment? So this is one that I love. And I don't think that this is resigned to folks that are in like the end of their career, because a lot of consultants are older. They've done it for decades. If you're in that demographic, awesome, then this is something you should definitely consider. But as long as you have expertise and you can help and you can do it in a way that is interesting and engaging for 3 hours, then you can get hired by a company to do that. And it's just a matter of putting the word out that you have that as an offer.
The one thing you, as a practitioner, you have to think about is almost building a personal brand around this. So I will share, I'll share my screen in the last few minutes here, but I did a talk. I'll put it in the link now or in the thing, but I did a talk and I recorded it on the how to build a powerful personal brand. And that's going to be really important in some of these things, because you need to be thinking about who you are, what you're offering, but people are looking for someone they can trust, whether that's a corporation or if that's, for consulting or buying a course. You have to be thinking about your personal brand and how to grow that. So I did a whole talk on that as it relates for practice owners and therapists. So,
and where did you do that talk, Brent?
I did that at Meet You in Kentucky conference.
Oh, cool. Cool. So that dovetails nicely with the final one, which is professional training. Whether it's a talk at a professional event or something like that, or you're going to another practice, or you're having professionals come to your practice or at a third-party location, helping develop the skills in an in-person way for other professionals is really amazing. So again, it could be in person, it could be virtual, but there's something really special about what happens when everybody gets together to do skill development. And so these are the kinds of things that there's, probably like 10 or 15 organizations at the top of this space that provide all of those trainings. And they're usually charging a couple $1,000s. And then when you're done with that weekend, you have the ability to do EMDR for a natural disaster, or you know how to create a couples intensive or something like that. And so there's so many ways that you can train others. And this is one of the things, I think a lot of these actually, but especially this one, because it's about other professionals in the space, this is where imposter syndrome can really flare up pretty strong. And I try to remind myself and others, like, even if you're just like a day ahead of someone else, you can help them and they will pay for that potentially. And so you don't have to be the world's foremost expert on how to use EMDR for children to offer a meaningful training for that thing, as long as there's other people that know significantly or even just a little bit less than you about that. So this is another thing where, you know, if it's a day-long event, you could probably charge $400 or $500 or more, depending on how well established your brand and reputation are. And to Brent's point, like, creating a brand is really important. And I don't mean like, oh, I have a brand because I have a logo. Like, your brand is your reputation. It's
Right.
it's the knowledge that you've accumulated. It's all the ways that you have shared. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about essentially what we're doing right now is kind of an impromptu free professional training, all about every step of the client journey. And I have accumulated through working with Brent and also other collaboration partners a bit of a knowledge hub, as I call it. And it's a really nice legacy. It's something I always dreamt of having, like a repository of useful information that somebody can access. And it's been developing over the last year, and that makes me really proud. And it also has a really strong effect on others that are considering working with me, because they say, oh, wow, this is a lot of information. This is good stuff. And he's partnered with these other brands. That must mean that he's somebody in this space. So it pushes them across that finish line because there's a lot of positive momentum there. And the same exact thing can happen for you as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do we do? Master this. You don't need to, but just consider all 6 of these different service types. And I'm sure there's probably 6 more that I didn't even think of. But these are the main ones that you can use and start to develop to increase the value of your current client relationships, expand to other avenues of revenue generation, of lead generation, passive income, legacy building. Like, all of these things are really exciting when you consider all the possibilities. And the thing that I love about doing this presentation in this year, with how much AI has become integrated into pretty much every aspect of life and business, is that so many of these things, if I looked at this 5 years ago, it'd be like, oh my God, that's going to take forever. I don't want to do that. Like, I would love to have a course, but how the heck am I going to do that? And now it's like, you know what you know. If you can communicate with a robot, it can help you build this, and you can refine it. So you can put your effort into, you know, refining the language so that it's really capturing your voice, and then creating like great video content. You don't have to worry about, how am I going to write all these words, and how am I going to structure this platform and all that stuff like that. That is largely done for you already. Even if you're not a technically savvy person, there's so many cool tools that can help you to polish your presentations and your assets so that you can bring them to the community online, to a business, to other professionals, to anybody, and give them something that really helps.
Yeah.
So once you think about this and think, okay, this is the thing that really sounds good to me. Maybe I already have this thing. Like, a lot of folks that I work with, they have a free offering on their website. It's like a lead magnet, as we call it. They give someone a PDF in exchange for a name and an email. And if that thing is actually getting people to click on it, then maybe they'll buy it for $5 or $10. Maybe you add like another page and you can sell it for $20. And it's not particularly hard to build these things. So there isn't a massive time investment to finding something that lands with your audience that you can then scale. And when it comes to like how to integrate this into your daily practice, think about what I call these expansion conversations, like discussing the opportunity of intensives or groups or digital resources and things like that with clients or with prospects on the phone. That's one of the things that I say, like, if I talk about the work I've done with intensive providers, if I did like an Ask Me Anything and said, here's where we are, we've earned 2.6 million in gross revenue over the past 5 years with just intensives, like, people are like, this is my dream practice. I don't want to see a person for an hour a week ever again. I just want to do this. I tell them, slow down, because don't throw away everything. There's going to be a chasm that you have to walk through because there's not as much traffic for intensives. But what you can do is you can talk about it with your existing clients and you can upsell them or get people excited about it. So that's really the first forum where all of these ideas can come to life, and you can bounce it off people and see what happens. And maybe you'll have a good idea and you tell a bunch of people about it. They're like, I don't know. That doesn't really yeah, okay, I'll think about it. Maybe something else you say it and they're like, oh, wow, really? Okay, tell me more about that. And this gives you free market research from people that are already paying for therapeutic services. What are the kinds of things that they'll like? And as you practice this way of thinking more, like, what is it that I can do to expand my impact, to generate more revenue, to add more value? Then you start to see these things come down the line before people even tell you about it, because you just train yourself to sense what it is that they need. And that's a really exciting position to be in, because then you just feel like you're a mind reader. Like, I know my audience is going to love this and it's going to crush it.
Yeah.
And so that once you develop that kind of alignment and momentum, this can become a really fun process. And if you don't know what to do and you don't know how to move forward, then consider hiring a team like ours, because we do this with our clients all the time. The first step is always the core issue, which is usually build out a weekly clientele and, dial in traffic generation and lead
Right.
generation.
You
But
gotta get the cash flow
after a
going.
year goes, yeah, exactly. After a year goes by, we're usually having really fun conversations. Like, do you want to add associates? Do you want to charge more? Go private pay, add intensives? Like, what's the dream that you have next? Let's go and build something even more compelling for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I put up here Chris's website, the moonraker.ai, and you should totally go and do a discovery call with him to see if he's a good fit. Now, I also, I wanted to show you had a, on your screen here, I was going to share a couple of resources too, but here's the QR code. If
You want me to stop sharing my screen here too?
Yeah, I was just wanting to show that QR code, but that just takes you to Moonraker.
Yeah, this will bring you right to the booking page, so you can hop on a free call with me.
Okay. Yeah. Or you could go there and just click on this start amplifying your project all the way down. And there we go. Well, once it loads up on the book of free discovery. Yeah. So yeah, definitely check it out. Chris does really good work. Now let me also show, maybe you added some, oh, look, I'm on there. Awesome.
Hey.
Yeah. But yeah, check it all out. He's got a lot of great content. Also, I wanted to show you, here's that, and I'll put it, I think I already put it in the chat, but this is, just go to, this is actually on Therasast's channel here. So if you just go to Therasast, this is probably one of the most important videos that I've ever recorded, is how to build this brand. It was in front of about 100 people. And I talk a lot about big therapy and the venture capital money that's come in, and how that's harder for practices to grow these days. And so you have to think about building a brand. But then I pivot a little bit and talk about building a personal brand. And so using what celebrities are doing these days to grow their personal brand, because there's a lot going on there in that world. They're taking it very seriously now, because most Hollywood actors age out of Hollywood at about age 30. So they have to think about, how do they survive past 30 years old in Hollywood. But it's also really important for practice owners who maybe want to start consulting, create a course, do intensives. It's really building that personal brand. So I think that's going to be really important. That's over on the Therasast YouTube channel. If you're interested in what a course could look like, this was a course that I created with Deb Legge, Dr. Deb Legge of the Private Pay Practice Program. So those interested in growing a private pay practice, they can, first, we have a process where they apply to the program. If they're a good fit, we'll send them to the checkout page and they can buy it. But this is a hybrid where it's asynchronous learning, but there's twice a month phone calls to help you with it. Now, if we were to sell this just by itself, maybe it would just be $400 all by itself, and there wouldn't be any coaching calls during the week. But we upload a lot of videos and everything to really kind of help you grow a private pay practice. So this is taking time to build. It doesn't happen overnight. This is another brand that you have to build. And then, there's a lead generator. And then what was the other thing I wanted? Oh yeah. So, and then this is, if you're interested in what a landing page could look like. So this is one of my clients, Seven Oaks Therapy in Florida. They do EMDR intensives. They just work with women. So we do EMDR therapy. So we talk a little, give some education around that. And then we pivot to what the intensives look like. And so we dive into, it's just to educate. So, because a lot of people may not know what intensives and what that all looks like. So take your time to explain it, create a video. What is an intensive? What does the 3 hours look like? How do you bring me through it? These are all questions that they're asking. So this is an intensive page that we've done. So But yeah, those are just a couple resources I wanted to share as we close out. Yeah, Chris, man, what a journey. Any closing thoughts? I mean, when I say journey, like this is the sixth or sixth done together.
The client journey, yeah. The
Yeah, I
whole
mean,
client journey.
you put in so much work into these slides and for our audiences. So thank you. Yeah, any kind of closing thoughts?
Well, this whole process of sharing these webinars is one version of me doing this exact thing that we were talking about on this webinar. You know, it's not a massive contribution, but it is a bit of a legacy. It's you know, my take on how to maximize every step of the client journey for therapists. And in my own way, you know, we have a different business model, but we have the same process for our clients as well. They need to discover us and they need to consider us and then get on a call and move forward with us. And so how can I continue to amplify our value and continue that relationship as long as it justifies its costs? And that hope is that that's for a long period of time. I just wanted to address, there was a question here from Levon. What would you say is a fair or typical amount to charge for corporate consultation? Can you recommend the payment structure? So I can't say in particular, because I think that one is so much related to a reputation. You could consider this a lot like, for example, what I'm familiar with is web design, which if you're doing a website as a one-time gig, it's kind of a consultation. It's like, we're going to design this for you. So we need to spec out a project. We need to, you know, there's a period of a lot of back and forth communication, send things for review, get approval, build some more, send it for review and approval. So some people do it hourly. Some people do it as a project-based cost, and that could be for consulting too. Some people would say it's value-based. How much value does this give to the client? I like that because it's related to how much you can help somebody else earn. So maybe if you were going to go to a company and they said, we have data on the productivity lost due to conflict and sick days and all this stuff, and we see we lost 50 grand last year because people hate each other, then you could probably charge $5,000 to that company if you can guarantee to minimize that by 50%. Now, does this data exist? I don't know. But
I'm sure it does.
I'm
sure it does.
It probably does. It probably does. Yeah.
I'm sure ChatGPT knows about this data.
For sure. For sure. If I do projects like a web design project, I do it based on the project-based price. So there's a flat rate. This is what it is for the scope of this project. And what that gives me the flexibility to do is develop more efficient processes so I can make more per hour. Mm-hmm. And if for some reason it takes twice as long as we thought and it's not related to the scope completely changing and more work being added, then I'm the one that deals with it. That's my fault as the professional. The hourly stuff, I don't like those awkward conversations where it's like, yeah, that took twice as long as we thought and I need to bill you twice as much. I don't like those conversations. People are very unhappy when that happens. So I'd rather be the one that works to develop myself as a professional so that I can be more efficient and more effective and, you know, reap the rewards from that process. So in terms of actually doing a consultation to a corporation, just like anything else that I mentioned, if it's a new thing, keep the price lower. Consider what you would charge for an hour of therapy. Maybe it's a 3-hour consultation, charge that. Or maybe half that. Just get in there because there's value to the reputation building and access to that audience. Because when you're vetted as a professional and introduced in that way, then you just access a whole lot of new people. So, and
my advice would be, if you're just getting started, just, you don't have to outprice yourself, but, you know, get charged, but also be prepared to ask them to leave a testimonial if it was helpful. Like if you're just starting on this, get testimonials. That's going to be really important for you. And just get your reps in. And then you'll have more confidence and start. You could just raise your prices to the moon for some of this stuff, especially if you show the value of how much money that will save that company.
Yeah, and you just brought up an interesting point, Brent. So a lot of the things that we talked about, especially community groups and things like that, so this is an opportunity to ethically request a review from somebody. And this is a bit of a gray area because it's like, I'm sure we've all been to a listing where we're trying to learn about the feedback from clients for the specific thing that we want. And then you realize very quickly, oh, this is all for like a meetup or something. It's not as good as seeing a whole bunch of reviews from people that said, oh my God, these therapeutic services were amazing and I healed so much. But from Google's perspective, reviews are good and 5 stars are good. And review velocity, which means getting more reviews more often is good. And so if you wanted to, I think that that might be another workaround that you can use to ethically generate reviews for your Google listing without needing to just, tiptoe around that ethical conundrum of actually getting it from clients. My biggest suggestion is ask people in your professional network, because that does seem from the latest updates to be within Google's terms of service, as long as it's transparent in the review. We're actually building out a review gen platform for that specific purpose, like how to create a drip campaign for your professional network, no clients, because this is so important. We need this so much for our clients to help really move the needle on that. But that could be a thing. You have a group every week and you ask people like, hey, it really helps me if you just like throw a few thoughts in there on Google and see what happens.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the last part 6 of 6 on this webinar journey together on clicks into clients. And if you haven't yet, go to the Brand Your Practice YouTube channel here, and you'll see all these conversations that we've had together with Chris, along with some other training materials. But you can see Chris has dominated my YouTube page. So thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate you joining for these last 6 months, really helping us out and bringing your expertise. Please check out moonraker.ai to connect with Chris, and we will see you on the next video, next webinar, or next podcast. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brent.